As a matter of protection, would the United States have to have a slightly different security relationship with Canada?
Yes, and that will throw the Five Eyes collaboration, which serves the security interests of every Canadian and every American, into jeopardy. It can't be done.
Can't share.
I don't see how we can share in the way we have. It's not a joke. It's truly serious.
Incredible. That's Susan Rice, former National Security Advisor to Barack Obama. I can't think of a single thing she would support Donald Trump on, but she says on the concerns for Huawei, the massive Chinese telecommunications company, Trump is right, and that it is a danger that every country in the West should ward off. Well, joining us now to talk about this issue is the author of a new essay on this subject from the Gatestone Institute entitled "Do Not Support China's Huawei, Cripple It Instead." And the author of this piece is our good friend Gordon Chang, who is also the author of The Coming Collapse of China. You can follow him on Twitter at Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, great to see you again. I was a little bit surprised to hear such a hard line from Susan Rice, a Democrat. That suggests this is a bipartisan security issue, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is. And China is becoming a bipartisan issue as well, because there's a perception across the American political spectrum that China is a malign actor. Now, not everyone shares that view, but many people do. And indeed, we are starting to see consensuses form on what to do about China. That, of course, is new as well.
I saw recently Pew Research, which regularly surveys countries around the world on China, has shown a hardening of opinions towards China, especially here in Canada. And I link that to Huawei. As you know, when Canada arrested a senior executive from Huawei, and they retaliated by virtually, I would say, kidnapping 2 Canadian civilians. It's been almost a year now. I think Canadians were sort of shaken out of this dream that we can all have a harmonious capitalist relationship with China as if it was just, the UK or France or something. Do you think that ordinary Canadians and Americans are starting to get China's number, that they're actually faking capitalists? They're more about, stealing intellectual property, having unfair trade deals that are one-sided. Do you think ordinary grassroots people in Canada and the United States are starting to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. And that is reflected in the Pew and the other surveys. Ezra, it's not like the Trump administration is innately hostile to China or, anybody else. What's driving this is Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler. And he's doing things that are forcing countries to understand the essential and hostile nature of China's brand of communism. You refer to the detention of Meng Wanzhou, the chief financial officer of Huawei, and what China did in response, which is the grabbing of the 2 Michaels, and also stopping imports of Canadian canola and other commodities. This is just serious. And we got to understand that China poses this mortal threat, not only to Canada, not only to the United States, but to the international system as a whole.
In your essay, you say that 5G is shorthand for the 5th generation of wireless communication, but it's not just an incremental change. This is a huge leap. This would be similar to moving from a landline on your desk to a cell phone. It's almost that kind of incredible jump. What can you tell us about 5G, and why should we be afraid if Huawei has all the hardware and the technical infrastructure? Why is that a threat?
Well, 5G will have super fast speeds, maybe 2,000 times faster than 4G. This will permit all the devices in the world to be connected through what has been now called the Internet of Things. So if everything is connected, it's all on Huawei equipment, and Huawei certainly is a leader in providing 5G equipment around the world. Then what's going to happen is that China will have access to all the data in the world. But also there's another side to this, and that is as devices are connected in the Internet of Things, China very well be able to manipulate them. So for instance, as I point out in the piece, they could drive your car off the cliff because it'll be a self-driving car. They could turn off your pacemaker. They could do all sorts of things with control of 5G. And that's why this is so critical.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.